One.
So on UFC Mexico City, we had a bout between Claudio Puelles and I believe it was Marcus Mariano. Let me just pull that up to confirm. Pretty sure it's Marcus Mariano. But the point being, yes, it was Mariano. The point being is that in the third round, Puelles was going for a Kimura on Mariano. And when he was going for that Kimura, Mariano was grabbing his own shorts to prevent the Kimura from, or prevent his arm from being separated from his body and then making it a lot easier for Puelles to be able to finish the Kimura. And while that was happening, Bisping was making a stink about how how Mariano was not allowed to grab his own shorts and that the ref should do something about that. Before I get into the whole little response between Bisping and his partner Brendan Fitzgerald, it is worth mentioning that while in MMA, I don't know of anywhere where you're not allowed to grab your own shorts. There are some grappling tournaments, not all, but there are some grappling tournaments where you're not allowed to grab even your own clothes. So it's not as though this is a universal rule where no matter where you're grappling, whether it's in an MMA context or in a jiu-jitsu context, that you're not allowed to grab your shorts. There are certain instances where you're not. Some places don't let you do it. So it's possible that Bisping was thinking of maybe one of those tournaments. Maybe he was helping a guy prepare for it, or maybe he had prepared for something like that himself somewhere down the line or somewhere in the past. Whatever the case may be, wherever the confusion came from, that was something that was bothering him, and he was bringing it up over and over and over. And he kept saying, "Hey, the ref's not letting it go. Players should complain to the ref. Mariano is cheating." Like he was saying a lot of stuff like that. And I think someone in the truck ended up telling him, hey, "Actually, no, it is legal to grab your own shorts." And when that happened, there was a little exchange, and I'll play that exchange for you between him and Brendan Fitzgerald that I thought was kind of funny, and sort of became a little bit of a theme throughout the night afterwards.
So they can grab their own shorts. They cannot grab the opponent's shorts.
Okay, my apologies.
So playing defense on himself.
You think no?
Got that corrected.
Yeah. Okay. I stand corrected.
Not the first time. I mean, everybody gets one.
Yeah. Well,
Never been wrong.
you think I know this stuff? I've been in there once or twice.
Not known for your grappling.
Speak for yourself, Brendan. I guarantee I don't know you pretty quick, buddy.
I'll take that bet. The complete domination continues.
Yeah. Pretty sure if me and you grappled, it would look like what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Although I would have finished that Kimura.
Yeah, I don't know if we last 2 minutes. Plays to his feet for the moment. I'm a white belt.
No, I know. Our good friend Alejandro just informed me that you're now a prestigious white belt.
Right.
You were all tickled about it. I saw the glint in your eye. You're like, I'm a white belt. I hate to tell you, everybody that buys a gi automatically becomes a white belt. But still, good for you.
Yes.
Small victory.
Thank you.
Back to the fight.
Yeah, so that was the little exchange there. So for whatever reason, Fitzgerald made the little statement like, "Yeah, you're not so much of a grappler anyway." And I think the idea that he was trying to get across there, I don't think he actually meant any malice behind it. I think he was just trying to say, "Hey, you were known for your great boxing. You were known for knocking people out, knocking out Luke Rockhold, and having great fights like that." But obviously, the way it came across to a guy like Bisping was like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, I've put plenty of time into jiu-jitsu. I'm pretty sure that Michael Bisping's a black belt now. Wasn't able to find an article that confirmed that. What I did find here was a video of him earning his brown belt back in January of 2015. So that's more than 4.5 years ago. So at the very least, the guy's a brown belt, but I'm pretty sure he's a black belt at this point. If you have trained jiu-jitsu to understand what it takes to get to a brown belt, the amount of work that gets put in, the amount of time that gets put in, the amount of effort, the amount of sacrifice that gets put into even getting a brown belt. For someone to say, grappling's not your thing, I can see why Bisping found it to be a little bit offensive and definitely took issue with it, especially from Brendan Fitzgerald, who it sounds like has taken like 1 or 2 jiu-jitsu classes, and as a part of that class, he got a gi and he got a white belt with that gi. So I guess he feels like, hey, it's cool. I'm actually like getting into it. So I guess good for Brendan Fitzgerald for at least like getting in there and training. If you're gonna commentate on the sport, it's good to actually know what's going on. So it sounds like, at least from his standpoint, he's a guy who probably got brought into the UFC just to being a good general sportscaster, but they were like, okay, well, now you're going to talk specifically about MMA. So at least it seems like he's going through the effort of trying to learn about it. There are people who've been in the MMA space a lot longer than Brendan Fitzgerald who haven't gone through that effort, particularly in the MMA media. I don't believe Ariel Helwani has ever trained in anything, and he's one of the biggest guys in the space. So at least for Brendan Fitzgerald, at least he's going through the effort of trying to train, but the thought of him taking pride in his little white belt I thought was pretty funny, and then Michael Bisping just absolutely giving it to him like, hey, dude, like, I understand who you're talking to. Like, I've put my work in. I've earned what I've earned in grappling. So even though Michael Bisping isn't necessarily known as a grappler, the guy's put in plenty of time. He's got a very good grappling base, and it's worth mentioning that when you're looking at the guys at the top of the UFC, in most divisions, you're going to have a lot of guys who are black belt level. So even if you are a black belt yourself, if you're going against other black belts, it's hard to look like a specialized grappler against them. Like we see this with Conor McGregor too, where Conor's a pretty solid brown belt. But when he has fights with Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's effectively a black belt, when he has a fight with Nate Diaz, who's a very good black belt, people are like, oh, your jiu-jitsu sucks, when in reality, it's just like, no, you're just going against someone who's really, really good at jiu-jitsu. Like, you may be good at jiu-jitsu, but when you're going against someone who's really, really, really good at jiu-jitsu, then it makes you look a little bit less effective than you actually are. So Bisping, he's putting his time. Definitely not a guy who you should say, hey, you aren't really a grappler. The guy's definitely putting his work to get where he's at in jiu-jitsu, and the amount of work that he put into jiu-jitsu definitely helped him at times in his MMA career. Oftentimes using his butterfly guard to get off his back and fight off the guys who are trying to take him down. Really tough guy to hold down. Has attacks from there if he needs them, but for Fitzgerald to make the little sting at him, like, hey, you're not really a grappler. I just thought it was funny that a guy in Bisping, who at the very least is a brown belt, I'm pretty sure is a black belt, like, yo, dude, you're a white belt. Like, calm the hell down. Like, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the sport. I thought that was pretty funny.